So, welcome to Faith in Full Bloom. It's springtime. So, and we're in Advent and headed toward Easter. So, thank you for joining. We're very excited to have you here. And I want to welcome you, and I'm just glad you're here. And whether this is your first book study or you've been through others, um, we'll walk this space together and build our spiritual practices together. So I invite you just to sit back and take a deep breath, clear your minds, maybe close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that, and exhale. We're all at different places in our lives. We're all at different places in our spiritual journeys too. So let's start off with um, just talking about how we're each doing and where we're at, and maybe what you want to get out of this study. So, Sherry, would you like to begin? Um, you need to unmute.
Okay, so at this season in my life, I am finding myself more wanting to get closer in with God every day, apply that to my life a lot more. Um, I still find myself sometimes in a great deal of panic, even though I'm a cancer survivor at this time. Like I'm seeing a lot of that coming back into my life. So I'm trying to get through that a little bit. Um, but I hope to get, more out of this devotional, to apply more things every day in my life and just better things. Learn how to, let the fear just subside a little bit sometimes and, focus a little bit better with more positive and ways to turn that around before you let it be. I guess is what I'm trying to explain.
I didn't hear you real well. So are you using a microphone or,
No, actually, I'm on my tablet. Is that word?
I mean, I could hear most of what you're saying, but not everything. But
Uh,
anyway,
Is that better at all?
yes,
Okay,
that is.
I didn't think about the volume. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's okay.
Do I need to be
Um,
so?
Trisha, what about you? What do you hope to get out of the study?
Um, I'm going to just read these two sentences actually from your book because it was exactly what I'm looking for. Um, and it's funny because I used to do that. So I guess one of the things I want to come back to who I was prior to 2020. Um, Not that I'm angry with God or completely turned away from God, but I became very stagnant and very quiet, afraid to pray, afraid to speak. Um, and I really, somewhere along the line, thought I was doing good by understanding things happen. but I still feel a separation with him and I. And I also tend to give things to God for everybody else, but not myself. Or when I give it to him, I
Mhm.
always have to turn around that same day or next morning and take it back. And I just really miss nothing ever wavered me. If you think of the worst thing that could maybe happen to your children or things like that, just nothing wavered me. I took everything to God for a lot of years, and I want that back. So, one thing you said on page 15 in chapter 1, I believe this is, embrace victories and the setbacks, understanding each has a place for your faith journey. And the other thing that really resonates with what I'm trying to get out of it is practicing gratitude in all circumstances. Those two things seem so simple, but they can be really big roadblocks for me, which then trickles down to my children and grandchildren. And I just really want to take that back.
A great goal. Very good. So I just want to set a little bit of an expectation. Um, I've said before that I wrote this book um, to help women like all of us be able to build on our spiritual journey and understand that we can trust God to help us get through these hard times. That's something I learned probably in the last, I don't know, just a couple of years. It isn't something I knew when I went into my cancer journeys. It's something that I figured out. Um, and now I give God credit for getting me through all of that, because He knew and I didn't. And I'm so grateful for that. But I thought if I'm that way, there's got to be other women. And so I thought, let's let's create a book that can help us in our daily lives, but also to build our own faith. So this 90-day format is designed to help you create a habit in your life. Um, I've talked about my morning ritual. That's when I pull out my devotional, or I'm currently doing a study at my church, a Bible study, small group, a small group of women. And so I pull that out, or I pull out the devotional and spend 15 minutes or so each morning, sometimes longer. Um, in fact, yesterday I told my husband I didn't get anything done except for read my Bible study. And he laughed and he goes, well, you're supposed to be retired. So that's okay to have that quiet morning. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But I'm writing a book. I need to get back to work. And so, but just realizing that that quiet time is productive because it helps us clear our minds and be open to hearing God. Because sometimes when we're so busy and we're not just sitting and listening, then we miss it. And Tricia, when you talked about feeling separated, is it that you're just not taking time to listen and be there? Maybe this will help you.
When I started reading the first chapter, Terry, that's one of the biggest things that spoke to me. I felt so close. I felt calm for several hours. And
Mhm.
it did. It kind of smacked me in the face like, well, look, all you did was open this book. I got myself a Bible with my birthday money, and I mean, I had a Bible, but it's a NIV. It's easier to understand. And it's dainty and pink and it matches your book. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I put in a lot of time of praying for other people, but I have not
Mhm,
put a lot of time in my worship music. My biblical reading has been really null and void for several years. Um, I think a little bit because it also forces you to deal with some emotions that maybe you haven't dealt with. That's another thing I'm kind of realizing. Loss, sickness, whatever. We've all been through a lot. Plus our extended families, things that I'm sure we all go through. So yeah, I haven't been putting in the time and I
mhm,
haven't been keeping my eyes on him. Just enough to do a Facebook post on my Greater Is He site, just enough out there for the day, and then I'm back to it, pacing, anxious,
mhm.
etc.
Well, I hope this journey you're on right now, it's day one or session one, that this will help you. That's the whole goal, is that we build these habits and at the same time, then we're building our trust in God. So, are there other things as far as questions or anything you want to talk about? Um, as far as expectation before we get into some details? So, well, I wanted to also mention I'm scheduling every 2 weeks, and the next email I'll send out tomorrow, I'll put all the dates. And so you can add those to your calendar if you want. But it's every 2 weeks, and it ends up being, well, twice a month, I should say, not really every 2 weeks. It's twice each month to get us through the 90 days. So I'll send those dates out to you too. All right. I just want to ask a few questions and get your thoughts. Um, what does faith look like in your daily life right now? Trisha, you mentioned you've been away from it and you're trying to get closer to it. What does your daily faith look like?
Mine is shaky.
Hmm.
I'm gonna be very honest because I'm Sherry's heard me talk. I think, if I'm not mistaken, at the last one, it's
Hmm.
like my faith was never wavering, but then I lost three people so close to me right after my journey. One being my mom, and it's like I struggle now because my mom, my grandma, my aunt, and my pastor were one of the most faithful Christians. I mean, I have no
Hmm.
words for the relationships they had with the Lord. And I just kind of, every time I start to feel God move and I want to be in that faith, I, I go back to, well, what makes me so special? You know what I mean? Like, why not them? And why was there so much suffering and the way it ended? So I somehow need to come to grips with all that and work through that, I think, so that I can unlock my faith the way it always used to be.
Hmm.
Makes any sense? And I don't know how to do that outside of, like you say, being accountable for the time that I'm putting into it. So I would say my everyday faith is not, it's picky and choosy, Terry, when it should
Yeah.
be wavered.
But you brought up the word suffering. That has been an interesting word to me the last few weeks, because it was talked about in my own church. Our pastor did a whole sermon on suffering, and he was using First Peter, but I just thought I would mention it because if you want to take a look at First Peter, it talks a lot about suffering, and there's a whole section on it. But the reason we were talking about it is as Christians, you know, Jesus suffered more than any of us ever have. And I feel like that's the lesson God was giving us is that, he suffered and he was a sinless person and he still suffered. Um, And God never promised life would be easy, but He did say that He would always be there. He made that promise to us, no matter
Yeah.
what was going on in our lives. So, but that helped me to think, okay, why do we have to go through all this suffering? Um, because I understand what you're saying, Tricia. It feels like it happens one thing after another. And I know, Sherry, you've had some loss too in the recent months. It's very hard.
And
And then you
mine,
wonder,
Sherry, did you ever like, so I understand the suffering when I'd be down and out with my autoimmune years ago, I used to say stuff like that, Terry. It would be like, look what Jesus did with the cross, the nails. You can get up and make it
mhm,
to church and Sunday school. But when I say suffering, it's like my mom used to always say on that past year on hospice, Trisha, I'm going to make it through this. O ye of little faith, where is your faith?
mhm,
And that's kind of what I mean by the suffering. It's like I'm afraid to say to someone in the TNB site, just hold on to the Lord. He got me through. That's kind of what I mean. It's like I'm afraid to go
mhm.
all in for the Lord because
You don't know his plan.
you don't.
So
All
it's,
you know is He gives you the strength to get through it. And that I know.
mhm,
Whew, not even cancer, so many things. And so
mhm.
many other people I know that have gone through so much. What do you think, Sherry?
And I'm at times feeling like you're feeling, especially right now. I've gone through that myself where, you know, and I don't know if it's because when you're watching your loved ones, at the end of their life, you have to be so strong at that moment. Like, this is kind of how I feel that, um, now I'm kind of feeling all the emotions, you know what I mean? So it's handling all that. But someone the other day told me, instead of always like focusing so much on that, the sadder and the, like, I can't explain it. But with that around to, um, like, but I can do this because, or, I shouldn't be so sad, and because, there's still good in this, and like focus more, look at it in the other side, the positive side, versus like, um, like we suffered so much and this is so hard to get through, but see the positive side of, even though it's bad, kind of like a gratitude thing in a way, like find the good in every situation. And I know that's hard because
Mhm.
like, what do you mean? But it kind of does
Oh,
really
that
work,
makes sense.
when
Yeah.
I'm not good at explaining that, but
No, you did.
really
That made sense.
work, because that's what I've been trying to do lately too. but I seen a dear person, and you all might as well, but she was just diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and it's like hearing this, the emotions coming through you, and then they're being so positive, at that moment. But it
Yeah.
try to find the good, and I at church I think it's really important. They said that the Lord doesn't want us to have anxiety. He doesn't want us to feel fear. He wants us to lay it at the cross, and
Mhm.
Is there a scripture about that? The Lord doesn't give us the spirit of fear, but of a
look,
strong mind, something.
Mhm.
and they actually had us write out a prayer that you want to lay at the cross, at the foot of the cross, and that's what we do. And so they're like, apply that in your everyday life. So give it to him, and you know and be I trust the Lord, and put it down, and he's answered my prayer. And but it does really kind of work when you look at it a little bit of a different um
And
way.
that's true because I remember vividly after a year and a half of hospice with mom, I remember screaming and crying and saying, "I'm ready. I will
Yeah,
be okay. Please take her home."
yeah,
And 48 hours later, my mom left. So you're right. I kind of got to look at it like that was the answer to prayer because who knows what she was facing beyond.
right. Yeah, but it is
Mhm.
experience.
It's hard.
I find myself in that a lot lately. Um, but it does work.
Thank
Well,
you.
I think about my own mom. I lost her. It's been, oh gosh, I can't even count the years now. It's been 10 years or so. And like you, Trisha, we were very, very close. I was the only girl. She was my confidant. She was so young. She was 72 when she passed. But I think of her with coal dark hair and no glasses because most of my life, she was salt and pepper hair, wore glasses, and now she's healthy and doesn't need that anymore. And so I think about that, and it gives me comfort knowing she's in a good place. But I didn't get there right away. It took some time.
I do feel like I've healed a lot. It was 3 years, February 18th. And then my grandma, um, she died of a broken heart, not cancer. She couldn't handle my mom. So 4 weeks later, grandma went. So, but I do feel like God has healed me in a lot of ways. I do regarding that. There's days
Hmm.
where I feel crippled and it's like, oh, I haven't made any progress, but that's just that moment, right?
Hmm.
I think I'm waiting for the pain to feel okay, but it's just always going to be there, right? Even 10 years
Right.
later, I'm sure you feel the same.
Hmm. Yeah, grief never goes away. You just learn how to manage it better.
Yeah,
That's what I've learned. Yeah. Because you don't want to forget your loved one ever. And
right.
I still talk to my mom often, because I believe she's an angel somewhere. God puts angels in our paths. Um, I think this would be a good time. I want to give you a prompt and then have you journal for maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Um, the prompt is asking God, what are you inviting me into during this season? What invitation is God giving you? So we'll just be silent for a couple minutes. Okay, do you need more time? All right. Um, I just want to set a little rhythm for you. I just want to encourage you to try to spend 10 to 15 minutes daily. I'm not putting pressure on you. I'm just trying to get you to establish that habit. And of course, there might be days where you can't do it. Like tomorrow, I have to get up and get to an appointment. So do I get up an hour earlier, or do I just reschedule my time for prayer and devotion? Those are the sorts of questions that we have to ask ourselves. But if we can commit 10 to 15 minutes daily, then you'll get through the devotion easily. Sometimes a particular day will cause you to do a lot of thinking, a lot of deep thinking. And then maybe you'll need more time, and maybe you'll work on it throughout the day as you process a little bit. So there's no pressure. All I'm doing is trying to help you set a rhythm to stay on track. Consistency builds strength. So if you're creating a consistent practice, based on what you said, Trisha, you're going to build intensity. Your faith and your spiritual intensity will increase just naturally.
That makes sense.
Mhm. Um, do either of you have a particular day you want to talk about from chapter 2?
Oh, chapter 2, I haven't done yet. I only got through the introduction and the first chapter.
Okay. How about you, Sherry? Is there one you want to talk about? If not, I'll pick one.
Um, I believe it is day 8,
Day
overcoming
8,
your good spirit. Or am I way too ahead of my head?
overcome your weakened spirit. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Here's a really good one too. By casting your cares on God. Um, so like, it says cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. Um, and that's what I sort of learned Sunday at the church I went to. If you can, when you're starting to have anxiety and you're feeling starting to let all those bad thoughts and worries and we all get when you feel like anxiety that we don't like um immediately turn your fears and tell yourself he doesn't want me to do this and turn that around and think of more positive things on that issue and pray on it, leave it to him. And he knows every detail of our lives and stands ready to carry us, so you don't have to be in that place all the time.
Mhm.
But that's just kind of what really hit with me on that, set the fear aside and try to think of other things when you start feeling like that. Or if you notice a trigger that's coming up, pray on it with me. And it does really work. It will, if you can apply it. And I've been doing that a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and, like another thing I do is in the morning because, finding time, that's where I really lack is okay, we're gonna do this, we try to stay on track and do it, and then you start feeling behind or something. But instead of feeling, just find that time before you go to bed or when you're, 5 minutes in the car, turn on
Hmm.
Christian music or something and keep yourself in a good spot instead of letting that go to that fearful place.
Right. Right.
But I really like that a lot. But,
Good. I'm glad that was helpful. I was going to talk a bit about day 4, and that one is titled Trust God's Protection. Um, Do not be afraid, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. And that's in Exodus chapter 14. The reason I thought this was a good one for us and what we've been talking about is just that idea of being still. um, is difficult. But if we are trusting God's protection, then we have to surrender our need for control and just rest. understanding that he has control.
That's funny that you say that because when you told us to journal, I won't read everything I put, but I put to teach you to be still and know that I'm God, to rely on me, not you, the doctors, people, but me, your father.
Mhm. That's right. But Sherry, you mentioned when things trigger you, or that's the world creating that trigger. It's other people.
Yeah,
Um, and that's when I say, okay, that's people. If I go back to God, He's going to set me straight. He's going to comfort me and give me clarity in this moment where the people just confuse me. And so I'm not good at that. I'm getting better of letting go of what people say and just focus on what God is telling me.
exactly.
Yeah, that control is an illusion. Um,
Yeah.
so all you can do is just choose to engage with it or pass it off. And there's really only two options. Maybe the third option is just to pretend it didn't happen and ignore it. And I've seen people do that too, where they just don't address it at all. Um, let's see. So, in closing, I have a prayer for you that I'll share. But before I do that, I just want to say that growth doesn't happen all at once. Take baby steps. That's why I suggested 10 to 15 minutes a day so you don't feel pressure. You just create a consistent habit. Um, but I agree, being vulnerable, even when it's just you and your Bible or you and this book, that can be triggering. That can be difficult. Um, so put it down and come back later. Give yourself a break. Um, but that consistent practice will help you build your habits and also your faith one day at a time. All right, let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for each woman who is here tonight and each one who will listen to the recording. Strengthen her faith, meet her where she's at. Offer her grace when she needs it and guide her through her days. Calm the places in her heart where she feels fear or uncomfortable, it feels uncomfortable. If she feels unsettled, help to guide her and give her calmness and peace. And remind her that she does not walk alone, that you are there with her every step of the way. Help each of us to trust your plan and understand that you are in control and that you see the world much bigger than we do. And you know that everything fits together in your world, in your plan. Continue your good work. Help us to join you and walk beside you. Help guide our thoughts as we move through this devotional journey. All this we ask. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you joining. I will get our video posted and then you can re-listen anytime you want. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too. Bye,
Thank
Terri.
you. Sorry.